Now let's get the views of Dr. Mike Jones. He's Executive Director of Migration Watch UK. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Chile.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, again, you're another organisation. I know you're relatively new to the organisation, but you're been talking about this stuff for years. An organisation that predicted way back when the doors were open to Eastern Europeans, the Romanians, the Poles and others joining the EU, that they could come to the UK. We were told 13,000 people would arrive. And in fact, it was, off the scale, huge numbers. Now, there's no doubt at all, an awful lot of those people have made great lives here, have integrated very well, and have been very accepted and are very welcome and have contributed to the economy. But there will also be concerns among other people. They were competing with them for housing, school places, and other social amenities. But when people do speak out about these issues, like Migration Watch has done, like Suella Braverman, the Home Secretary, has done, people instantly get labelled as, xenophobic, racist, bigoted, uncaring, unkind. Why don't you care about refugees? But Suella Braverman's got a point, hasn't she, that this is an absurd and unsustainable system?
Yeah, I think her speech today is long overdue, and, props to Suella Braverman, more power to her elbow. I think the legal international architecture is antiquated. It's completely out of date. It emboldens illegal migrants. And essentially, the Geneva Convention was not a universal document. It was designed for the European continent.
Yeah.
It was designed for refugees behind the Iron Curtain. It was designed for people who were being persecuted by the Soviet Union. And today, the situation is completely different. The only country that remotely resembles the Soviet Union is North Korea.
And those people can't leave the country. But this is the thing, that whenever I talk to people on the left who say they don't use the phrase, as Russell Quirk says, open borders, but that's really what they do want, because they don't have an issue with illegal migrants arriving. They want safe routes and legal routes, absolutely. But they won't tell us what those numbers should be. These were people who were criticising David Cameron in 2015 when he limited it to 4,000 a year for 4 years arriving from Syrian camps, as opposed to a free-for-all like Angela Merkel had in Germany of 1 million people arriving, not all of them Syrian, by the way. But they won't tell us what the parameters should be, even though we are seeing, as Suella Braverman rightly points out, that it is a completely different time from that 1951 convention being signed.
Well, of course, they won't tell us what the parameters are. There's a great phrase used in the military called mission creep.
Yeah.
The objectives of a mission become enlarged incrementally over time to a point where the original objectives are obscured, and the chances of failure are greater, are more likely to occur. And we've seen exactly the same with the legal infrastructure. They've reinterpreted out-of-date conventions. Judges, activists, lawyers have used antiquated documents to essentially put the pedal to the metal on mass illegal immigration.
And that's the thing. It is a lot about how lawyers and judges are interpreting these conventions and these laws and the rights, and what persecution means. Basically, if you say you're gay, you're from an awful lot of countries where, being gay is basically a crime, well, then you've got a right to come here. Well, in theory, yes, I can support that and understand that. But, what's the reality of the numbers and the number of people who can claim that, but not actually be facing any persecution? And again, it's about, well, OK, how many people? And things have changed in terms of the ability and the ease and the cost of travel, across continents, the time frames, but also people's knowledge of what is available to them elsewhere. 10 years ago even, people did not have smartphones routinely across many poorer countries. Now you see people, they're on migrant boats coming from totally impoverished villages, but they've got a smartphone. They can see how people live in the West. It's like these people who arrive from North Korea and South Korea and are just sort of absolutely completely befuddled by the sight of all these people buying food and lights on and things. They come from a world where they've been told everyone outside North Korea is starving and living in even worse poverty than in North Korea. They're lucky to live there. These people now are fully aware that there's a much better life to be had in Europe or America or Canada or Australia, and they want a piece of it. And I can understand that, but what is the duty of care we have to those people?
Well, obviously, mass immigration is good for immigrants themselves.
Yeah.
That's without doubt, not just because of them settling in richer countries, but because of remittances that they send back to their country of origin. But there's a trade-off here. You've got a trade-off between maximizing the welfare of migrants and also what benefits the host country. My belief is immigration policy should be designed for British people,
Yes.
and it should serve the national interest. We need limited numbers of legal migrants chosen for their skills and their high human capital. What we have at the moment, unlimited numbers of illegal immigrants who aren't chosen for their skills.
I think you'll find they're all brain surgeons and engineers if you check more closely when you see those people getting off the boats.
Well, I mean, even with legal migration, the vast majority who come here are not highly skilled. So that there's a problem here with both the legal and illegal migration system. I think Suella Braverman is quite sound on the illegal migration aspect, but I think the Conservatives could do much better on.
I think a lot of people would say that indeed. Mike Jones, Executive Director at Migration Watch UK.